Good afternoon, everyone. This is Peter Turner. I'm with the Diocese of Washington, and you're joining the Diocese of Washington web training webinar today for using MissionInsite. This is our community mapping and demographics tool that we've now made available to parishes in the diocese. So we hope you're all, if you haven't registered yet, please follow the link in the email and on the website that was sent out. Register for your parish, and then Peter Wennert from MissionInsite today is going to be walking us through how to use the how to get started with the system and look at some of the features and reports so you can get going. And then as a follow-up to this session also, we anticipate having some additional training webinars for you with, in addition to using additional features in the system we don't have time to cover today, also some specific engagement ideas on reaching out to the community, ways you can use this data to engage with the community, ideas for engagement, and that's all part of our kind of strategic process for improving community engagement revitalization in the diocese. You'll notice down at the bottom of your screen, you should see in your view for this that there's a Q&A button. And so if you see the Q&A, that's where you can ask questions. You can type in a question in there, and we'll be monitoring those questions during the session. And then at the end of the session, we'll be responding to those questions as they come in. So that's all for now. I'll hand the session over to Peter now, and as I mentioned at the end of the session, we'll come back to the Q&A. So please feel free during the session to type in your questions, and we'll look at those and come back to them. So thanks very much. Okay, Peter, thank you.
Hello, everyone. This is Peter Wennert with MissionInsite. You should now all be looking at the MissionInsite homepage. This is the page where you will log in, also where you can self-register, given the links that you can do it directly. So we come and we go to the login button. It will take you directly to your local parish study. So for demonstration purposes today, I'm going to be looking at St. Margaret's. Before we do that, excuse me, we want to spend just a few minutes giving you a little bit of information about the system, where the data comes from, and how you can utilize that in your ministry. So let me change my display here. And now you should be looking at a PowerPoint that says MissionInsite, excuse me, Faith Connect, NP Connect. MissionInsite has been a faith-based provider of community-based information for well over 12 years. And the originators of that organization have been involved in this work for almost 30 years. So we're very excited about the ability to provide this information for you in the Diocese of Washington. And we want to just share the framework of how we deliver this information and the sources of the data itself. We will introduce you to 3 new terms. They are called Core View, which we believe is one of the essential views to advance our mission. Core View, Community View, and Fusion View. So what are we talking about when we use this terminology? Core View is really communicating what is true about our organization, your parish, the membership of your parish. Who are you in relationship to the area that you serve? And then Community View, which of course is what it sounds. What does the area look like where your parish church is located and the area that you serve in mission and ministry? The third term sorry, is Fusion View. And for us, Fusion View provides the ability of bringing the information from the organizational identity and the mission field identity together, so we can look at that in terms of how we can impact ministry in a given area. So those are terms that you will see when you work with the system. And the core view really relates to uploading your member file into the system. So I'll come back to that, demo that for a little bit later. What are the data sources? So where does this data originate that you will be using in the MissionInsite system? The demographic data, the census-based data, is provided to us through a corporation called Synergos, located in Texas. Synergos is considered one of the top 3 companies in the US of updating ongoing census information between actual censuses. So they update their database every 3 months, because the corporate world that they serve primarily is not interested necessarily in what was true at the 2010 census or before, but what is currently true. What can you tell me will be true within the next 5 years? And can you give me any idea for some of my data of what might be forecast 10 years out? So Synergos provides MissionInsite with all of the census-based data that is currently updated. We put an update online twice a year. So we have a late spring update, which is now online for your use. And there will be another update at the end of the year going forward into 2020. The second database is from a corporation called Experian. Now, most of you probably are familiar with that term or name. They are one of the 3 credit companies. So if you're looking for a good credit report, you want to make sure Experian has current information on you that's positive. Well, Experian, because of the scope of the data that they maintain, they say they have information on 98% of all the households in America. They have created a socioeconomic and behavioral and financial system that provides us the ability to look at household with these variables as opposed to just census-based variables. I'll show you that information, but that database is updated annually by Experian, and it is very sophisticated. And the reason it's so powerful is it is created at the 9-digit zip code level. Very important to understand, because at that level, we're now talking about the identity of 4 to a dozen households in an area that has a social, economic, behavioral, financial profile created by over 300 variables from the Experian database. So again, if you have questions going forward, there's data on the website. I'll show you all the help area to answer a lot of the questions that you may have regarding the data sets. The third database is a religious database we call the Project Quadrennium. There are 2 sets of reports on your study. One is called the Religious Insight, and there is a priorities report, a condensed version, and there is a Ministry Insight, which is also part of the Quadrennium survey. And that also has a condensed report of priorities. So Quadrennium is a research project done by MissionInsite. We did our first project in 2012 and updated that database in 2017 at the end of the year. So it is the current data. Then finally, you have access to individual household level data in looking at mailing lists or being able to look at local areas to better understand, given the socioeconomic information available, what might that look like household by household in the system. So those are the databases that are available to you as you will work at using the system. Now, I like to get into the actual platform. And so when you log in, excuse me, sorry, you will be greeted by this user assistant window. Basically says, what would you like to do? There is a video here, where to begin. It's approximately 3 minutes. So if when you look at this, if you'd like a little more information, you can play the video. Most people, when they first log in, you're thinking about getting demographic information for your area. So you can use the assistant window for simple tasks or any of the tasks, but it provides you a step-by-step procedure. So I will say I would like to get a predefined boundary today. And I'm going to say I would like that to be a zip code. Often people will want to know what's true about their zip code. And then it will say, okay, where is that zip code? If is it in DC or is it in Maryland? So just for demo's sake today, we'll say Maryland. I'll then all of the, well, let me do DC because I know all of DC is in the diocese. So I'll now select a zip code, and I'm just going to choose this one for now. Once I click on that, it activates it and says, here is what you are ordering. The next button appears in the lower right-hand corner. You click on that. It will then say, what kind of report would you like? Would you like to create your own custom report, which I'll show you a little later? Or would you like one of the predefined? Most people will run one or more of these reports. I would strongly suggest initially that you run the full set. So you can quickly take a look. They're all in PDF format. You can take a look and see exactly what is reported in each report, how they're formatted, and whether you have a preference. We would recommend that you either use the Executive Insight, which I'll activate, or the Quick Insight when you are beginning to get information. The full Insight is over 30 pages. So then we have a Religious Insight. Here's the Priority Report. Ministry Insight, again, the Priority Report. So I'm going to start us off with these 4. Now, when you log in, if you log in at a local parish, you can put your parish name here to replace the Episcopal Diocese of Washington name. So these fields are editable. So let me now scroll down. I'm going to click Next. It says, this is what you've ordered. This is the geography. If that is all exactly what you want, click Finish. When you click Finish, it will now go in and generate all 4 of the reports that we were requested. So here is the first one, and while the others are loading, I'm going to open that. And generally, the reports load this quickly. Unless you have some kind of internet issue, generally the system is quite responsive. So this report which is my one of my favorites, gives you narrative, a table, and graphics for each of the 12 thematic areas. I'm not going to spend a lot of time with the reports. I want you to see them and know that they are there for any geography that you want to look at in your area, down to a block group. So you can look at very small local areas in terms of what's true across one side of the street or the other. And that could make a difference in terms of demographics. So in looking at this report, you have a population. So let me come back to the population very quickly. Here is where you have a 29-year timeline. For population and households in this report, we add the 2000 census, as well as the 2010, the current year estimate, a 5-year projection, and a 10-year forecast. Now remember, these numbers will be updated again in December. So that's an ongoing rolling update. And we have race and ethnicity. These are the major categories, so you can look at any area and see how they distribute. There's then a whole variety of different areas in terms of age. I like to pause here because very quickly we can see these different categories and what is happening with them across time from the 2010 census. And here we also have forecast data. So the 3 variables are population, households, and age. All the others have 5-year, have current and 5-year projection. This table then shows what is happening with each of these groups across time. So you will see these kind of aids to assist you that are visual. So moving through shows school age. Again, a variety of ways to look at the information. And whenever we take an area and index it, we always do it to the state, in this case, the district. One of the things I like about all the financial data here is that there is a median household income section. And this is by race and ethnicity. And so we can see, given which groups we might be working with, you can see the differences in that income level. So that is part of this report. Again, just moving through, I want to come down. Here's education. And as I mentioned, everything is indexed to the state, in this case, the district. So we can see what's true in this zip code compared to the entire district. I want to continue down to the mosaic. Again, just a quick introduction. Mosaic is very unique because it gives you the socioeconomic and behavioral view, and it's used in the plotting and uploading of members that we call people plot. And I'll show you where there is information on how you accomplish that in a few minutes. So when you look at this zip code, what it's telling you is that over 26% of the households would be in this category, G25. So if we want to relate to that group, who are they? What's true about them? You can see all the other groups as well. Now the system, you will learn very quickly, is set up that the lower the number, the higher the income. The higher the number, the lower the income. And there are 71 different segments in the system or classification. So you can see in this zip code, there are some areas that are extremely wealthy. We have A groups, 4 of them in the area. But look, we also have a Q65. That is an extreme difference in income. So those are different pockets or sections. Now, whenever Mosaic is presented, we provide you with these links, and I'm just going to open this one so you can see it, and it's going to load the handbook. So you have a handbook from Experian. It gives you information on how the system was created, which you can study and look at. You can download this and reference it at any time. I'm going to come down to the 25. So here's G25. So this is the largest group in the area. What's true about this group? What are we going to find in terms of who they are, how they live their lives, what's important to them in terms of their household information? So this shows how they prefer to receive information, and all of these graphics are explained in 2 videos over here on the page. So if you come here and we click on the videos, that will give you additional information on those links. We'll look at this link in a moment. So now I'm going to see that they are above the norm in terms of being tech savvy, but they're not at the top of the list. And here are some key features. We can also see that 45% of the households would have a head of household age somewhere between 25 and 30. So let me go to page 2. Again, moving quickly, but want to introduce you to this resource that is available. I personally like this page because what it does is it shows what's true for each of these categories given the norm in the US, which is the center line. So if the bar goes to the right, you are overrepresented for that classification or group. If it's to the left, we're underrepresented. If there is a number, as there is here, that's times the US average. So again, as we saw on the first page, the strength in terms of head of household age is 25 to 35. So these two are high above the US norm, and we have over, well, 60%, almost 60% of the households would be in these categories. There are some in the others, not devoid, but again, what's the strength? What about without children? We can see we're not going to find probably a lot of children in these households. The thing I want to also point out is length of residency. You cannot get this information from census data, not collected, but it is available here in the Mosaic. So if you're going to connect or have a vital ministry with the households in this classification, you're going to need to connect with them fairly quickly because their length of residency is pretty much less than 7 years. They're going to be gone, most of them, or turnover. So what does that mean? How do you integrate that into your thinking? Now, not only do you have that data from Experian, we also have a ministry guide that is written by an international consultant named Tom Bandy. And so let's load G25. And so for each of these classifications or segments, as they're called, Tom takes the information from Experian, presents that, and then says, given the information we're learning about these households from Experian, how might that affect us in terms of ministry activity? How does this group view leadership? What kind of leadership are they responsive to? What's important to them? So there are 9 different sections to this report. Just very quickly, there's leadership, and each one contains some process questions for the group to use to better understand, okay, given what this says and what we know about our congregation, what might that mean for us in terms of our ministry choices? So we have that, we have worship, we have hospitality, we have education. How do they view education? What kind of response would you find in terms of curriculum? Small group activity, outreach. How do they view outreach? What kind of things would they respond to or participate in? Again, trying to provide the church leadership with an additional level of information to assist in their knowledge in terms of connecting with different groups of people within an area. Financial preferences, how would they view giving? Well, if everything's a unified budget, they might not be too generous. They prefer to give to designated projects. And then communication. How might you best communicate with them? At the end, there is a glossary. So tells what all these terms mean. And so those are resources available to you in the system. Lastly, I want to point out in the Executive Insight is the section Generations. Again, can be very telltale and helpful when you are talking about what is the future of our congregation, given what is the strength of it by age. If the strength of the congregation in this area is here in the silence or the boomers, you're now working with less than 15% of the population. And what's that mean for your future? So it's another kind of graphic way of kind of having people get a little better connected with reality, hopefully. And finally, in this report, there is a religious program, ministry preferences. Now I'm going to have to zoom along, and here's the quick insight, and I just want to show you 2 quick things. The quick insight, again, always has a map, shows the area, and then there's a story view here. So this is kind of a quick visual of some of the significant things and what's happening and what's going on, the theme. The other thing is at the bottom, at the end of this, as well as the Executive Insight, there is a worksheet. And I'm going to just open this one because one of the things that you can do that we think is extremely effective is before you share the data with anyone in the congregation, you ask them to tell you what they believe is true for the area you're looking at. How well do they really know the area? Because remember, this is the group making decisions about your ministry. So all of that, you can begin to better understand where people are coming from and what do they really know about the area. And then there's a little process section of how to take this and use it in some small group work, and then to look at the actual report and then say, okay, given who we thought we were and what we believed was true and what we're learning about the area, what might that mean in ministry? So that is the quick insight. So let me come back here. Now I want to open up the religious insight priorities. Again, want to introduce you to ministry tools available. What is going on in 2019? What was true at the end of 2017 in terms of people's beliefs in God? So there's a full report behind this. But again, to get people's initial attention, we have these short priority lists. So how would people see and respond to these questions. What about social moral beliefs? Where are people coming from in this group? Now remember, this is tied to the mosaic. Again, there is a white paper called Quadrennium on your in the help section, so you can read all about this. So you can see it's a short priority report. Here is the MissionInsite. Again, same format, but here are the categories. What are people thinking about in terms of life concerns? Why might they not participate if they're not participating? And what about people who are participating? Why may they consider leaving or becoming less active? And what about ministry program preferences and social media? So let me just skim through that. Again, here are the top 15 of the 34 questions that were asked. So if you want to see all the questions, you'd go to the full report. Moving through, why people say they would do not participate. So what are you going to, what are some of the kind of issues that maybe need to be addressed in how people are approached? What's communicated to them? How do people in the area kind of look to receive their news? These are forced pairs. So again, that level of information, and then getting a little better handle on social media. Of course, this keeps changing, but again, trying to give a benchmark or a bench line to this kind of activity. And then the support. So those are the basic reports that are available to you. And I'm just going to come back here. Now, that is part of the user assistant window. And that is loaded here, closed here. So if I want to work with it, I personally love to look at the map because now I can see my location and I can work from here. And here's where we can then turn on. We have all of these tools, and there are videos for that explain both of these sections. This is the control panel, and all of this is explained here in the help tab. Let me show you that. So these are support aids. Here's the mosaic. Here are the systems. Here's the quick insight worksheet. This is the benefits of people plot. I'll show you where you can learn how to upload. So if you're kind of wondering about that, all you would do is click on it and open it. And there is information that you could read and say, oh, that's what they're talking about. So that's what people plot is all about. Then there are overview videos, and here are the topics. How to navigate the navigation bar, the toolbar, shapes, how to draw. People sometimes have problems knowing how to draw a polygon and understanding the mosaics. So all of that support is here. Now I'm going to come over here and I want to go to my layers. And so when I click on this at the bottom, take notice it opens this window. If I want to know where the zip codes are, all I need to do is click on zip codes. And if I want to, it will now load the boundaries. I can go in here and change colors and do that for those who want to kind of spend a little more time. Then if I click on show labels, it will give me the actual zip code number. So if we're at St. Margaret's and someone says, well, we should get our zip code. Well, that's fine, but your zip code for St. Margaret's comes way up here, all the way up to almost Military Road. Well, is that really the area you want. Or if someone says, well, how about 2009? Well, that's all the way over here. So we may want to draw a custom shape. And so now I can go to my shapes. I can say, I don't want that. And if I want to remove those boundaries, all I do is I come over here and there's a little clear map that I can now clear shapes. These are all different selections. So I'm going to clear my map. There we go. And now I've gotten rid of that, and I'm going to say, I want to draw a custom shape. So here are my drawing tools. I'm in my shapes, and I have a crosshair. And so I'm going to zoom in a little. I'm doing that with my mouse, the little scroll button. And I'm going to say, I want to just start right here. And I want to come, and now all I'm doing is left clicking my mouse. And I'm going to come down here, and I'm going to come over, and I'm going to come to here, and I'm going to come up here. And now what I'm doing, I'm holding the map, I'm holding down my left part of the mouse and clicking. I'm going to come over here to Adams Morgan, and I'm going to double click. When I double click, I've created a shape. Now, once I've created a shape, this little box opens. It says, all right, what do you want to do? And I say, I want to save this for later. So I'm going to click here. And now I'm going to put, say, main area. And there you go. Well, that's not good. Let me get rid of my cap tool. And I'm going to say save. Now, here in my shapes, I have save shapes. And Kurt has saved a shape. So I could access that if I want, or I could just show my own. So now I'm going to come here, and I'm going to say, I'd like to get some information about that. But I don't want one of those full reports. I'd just like to know how many school-age children live within that area. And so now I'm going to go to custom reports, because I went to my demographics, because that's what I want. I say custom. I'm going to say, I just want to build a demographic report for now. And I want age of life. So I'm going to do that. That's it. Let's just take a look. I'm going to scroll down. It says generate report. And so this is the kind of thing that makes sense to do in a meeting. When someone's asked a question, you want to answer it and say, okay, what is true? Well, now looking at that area, we have over 1,600 0 to 4-year-olds and 2,000 school-age children. Now, do you think the leadership is aware that the numbers are that high? In most cases, people aren't. We don't have an idea. We might say, yes, there are a lot of children, there's a lot of this or a lot of that. So you have the ability then to come in and look at those kind of reports for a given area. And this is what one of the things I like about the system is you can answer these kind of questions during a meeting, live online. So let me close this. There we go. Now, I want to show you another tool briefly. You can also do maps. You can do, let me do one additional thing here before go to my so let me go to my shapes again. You can do walk time as well as drive time. So in order to get people's attention, if you said, well, what's true within a 10-minute walk of our building? I could come here and I could say, I'm going to click on the building. So I just, let me click a point. There we go, sorry. Oh, here, let me get rid of that. There we are. And I'll say next. I'm going to do 10 minutes. I'm going to do next. And just like that, we can see a 10-minute walk. And now we could go get the data from that as well. Okay? So let me, now I want to go and use a different tool. I want to go and I want to know about these children. So I'm going to use Opportunity Scan. And the reason I want to use that is because it will give me a table. And I'm going to go to Phase of Life and I want to look at the 0 to 4-year-olds. I want to know where they are and I want to know how many and I want to know where. So now I'm going to come back here. And now that I've selected it, I want block groups because that's the smallest geography. And I'm going to say scan. So now it gives me a table and says, here are all the block groups. Let me put this over here. This shows the legend. And here is a 10-minute walk right here. And if I want to see what's true about those, I can come here. And if I want to see where the highest concentration is, I can click on that and we'll put a marker. Then I could save that as a map, as a PNG. So these are the kind of tools you have available. Now I'm going to pause there and I'm going to go back to the plotting and I'm going to go to my window and I want to demonstrate people plot. When you come here and you say you want to plot people, it will tell you, if I say next, it will say, you do not have anyone plotted, you have to upload people. So there is a video that was there. Here is that video. So I strongly recommend you all look at the video. In order to do this function, the person needs church administrator rights, and Peter Turner will be able to provide those for the user. So you'll need to email him or contact him and let him know that you have a person in your parish church that wants to upload your member file into the system. What is significant about that? Let me see if I can find where I put that. Okay. Okay, let me go to a different study very quickly, Southwest Florida. And I'm going to show you a plot of what this looks like and why it's important, because you can then run a comparative report for the church members in relationship to the, so we're going to do all the studies here. I'm going to do this one. So there are the members of this church. And now you can see how they distribute. And if we want to learn more about that, I'm going to draw a quick shape, and I'm going to say we want to get an idea of what's true about them and what's true about the area. So now I'm going to go and I'm going to click on my predefined report. I'm going to say I want to select, and here is a new report, Comparative Insight. I'm going to generate that report. And there are 3 sections. I'm going to show you those very briefly, and then we'll take any comments or questions. This is the core view of being able to use core view and then the community view, and the fusion view is this report, a comparative insight report. This is the sophistication. So now it's going to say, what do we have true here? We have 203 of their members living in 113 households in an area of over 288,000 people. There's 68 of the 71 segments present, so it's a very diverse area. Our members live in 28 of them. The first section gives you this kind of individual analysis of how do we look on the right compared to the area we're analyzing. You could do neighborhoods, so you could subdivide this. The index again is 100, so if it's underrepresented, over 100, overrepresented. So the first section is to sensitize and walk through and get us better aware of what's going on in these individual areas. The second one does a direct comparison of the mosaics. So the largest mosaic segment in the area is L42. And you can see these are well distributed here. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 that are all over 6,000 households, and a couple with 5,000, 3 with 5,000 households. And then where do our members' households distribute? So we can see which ones we are connecting with and which ones we're not good or bad. But that's the second section. But look at the third section. And again, here are the links so you can use your analytics. But Experian also knows the income levels of each group. So since they have 4 in the A02 category that their median annual income's over $300,000, that means their annual median income's 1.2 million. So you aggregate, add up all of these, and these 113 households have an annual median income of over $9 million. I do not know what their budget is. We find that many or most of our client churches, their budgets are between 2 and 4%. So this now provides a whole different level of understanding and information in terms of reality of not only the socioeconomic, but financial reality. Historically, the only way you could get any financial information on member households of any group was to do a feasibility study, generally for a capital campaign. And those are very expensive, cost $10,000 to $20,000. So this capability is taken off like wildfire. We have over 5 million records uploaded. We have clients that have over 200,000 of their household, of their members in the system. So they can look at where they're connecting across their regional agency. So that's the system. That's a quick overview. These are the key areas. Again, we've highlighted most of them. The thematic map is similar to the opportunity scan without a table. And so that is the orientation to get you started today. So Peter, I will stop there and see if we have any quick questions here for the rest of our time.
Sure. Thanks, Peter. There's one question here. When will the quadrennium data be updated again?
We update it every 4 to 5 years because that seems to be sufficient in terms of the major shifts of the religious activity that we measure in that survey.
And so the last one was 2017, so the next one would be around 2021 or so?
22 maybe.
22.
We'll probably do it after the census is released, just because it will be much stronger to tie it to the new census variables as soon as they come out.
Okay. Another question: can you search via setting parish boundaries rather than single zip codes? I think that was answered when you drew the shapes
Yes.
around, and you can do obviously driving and walking distance as well. And if you want to follow your exact parish bounds according to the historic parish bounds, you could always draw those on the map via a shape.
Yes, yes, you can.
Yeah, if you wanted to follow that.
And then you could save it and
then save it. Yes, exactly. Peter, could you just explain a bit about saving the shape and sharing it with others? That was something, that's a setting in there.
Yes, let me, let's see, I come back here to my shapes. You can indicate that when you save the shape. If you are logged in for the local church, as I was, then those shapes are available to other people in there to see, or you can just show your own.
So when you save the shape, is that shape shared with everyone else in, say, the diocese, if you choose to share it?
No, just the local church that you're sharing it in.
Okay, right. Another question was, in an option within the Experian report, one of the screens you scrolled through had questions about religious beliefs and the degree to which G25 group was likely to accept or agree. And it seemed that many of the questions had to do with Jesus. When gathering that data, were all of the questions Christocentric? So I guess that was the question, is were they multi-faith or were they mostly about Christianity?
They were multi-faith and Christianity. Yes, okay. And in order to the actual survey is here in the white paper. So this is the survey itself. And let me just come. So here's beliefs. We asked two things: beliefs about God, beliefs about Jesus, and then we had moral and social issues, and we also had whether people religious preferences. So there were religious preferences as well as denominational preferences. And here we got none, no religion, and so the detailed report also includes selections for these categories. Is that
Okay,
it?
Thank you. Another question was, is the information uploaded, the parish's data? So if someone uploads their parish data to the system, I guess that's particularly the plotting data as far as the membership. Is that available for anyone else to see? In other words, is it, in other words, will anyone else be able to see that information once you've uploaded it?
They cannot, okay. Multiple users in a local parish can plot the dots. They cannot see who the dots represent. They cannot get to the name file. Only the church administrator can access a file that shows the names inside a given area.
So in other words, only other people who've registered from your parish could see where the dots are, but only the church administrator who's been assigned administrator access could see which people live at those dots.
Yes.
Right.
Correct. And The diocesan level staff can see all the plots, but the only way that a diocesan person could see the names is if the diocese agency administrator gives them church admin rights to that church.
Are there any confidentiality issues with sharing parishioners' information in this platform?
We haven't had any, because only the person who uploads the file has access to it, and the agreement with the diocese has a paragraph that we do not share any information with any other entity.
Thank you. So a comment here, lots of data, unsure about Experian's role in the data mining. Can you share more about the Experian's role? Why this particular company that has access to our very personal financial data?
Because it's public data, and it's a public system used by marketing. There are the two major systems. The other one is called Prism, that the Nielsen Group has overseen. So they are public domain kind of marketing databases that, because of they do not share individual personal data and it's aggregated at the 9-digit zip code, they haven't had any issues with it at this point. Although there are constant issues about privacy, and so where that goes in the future, who knows? But currently, there are no issues that we know of.
Okay, and then one more question. A question about undocumented or non-citizen status, and this may be something we can answer or not, but how does undocumented or non-citizen status affect the results in an area known to have a high population of immigrants? What was the completion rate of the survey? So I'm imagining that's the faith survey, or perhaps any other collection that you know of.
The entire database, is limited in terms of undocumented or non-documented people in a given area, and the survey would not reflect them as well. The survey was done by a national survey company that MissionInsite hires. Then they do it through a web-based system that represents all of the mosaics. And that's why someone would need to take a look here at the white paper at this Quadrennium project, because it shares how this system is distributed and how the mosaic is used, as well as the census regions and the distribution that I'm showing you here. So again, it's like all these databases, they have their limitations. They're not complete. And so the way I like to talk about it is, what we're telling you is true about an area has validation to communicate that is there in the area. There may also be other things true in the area that are not reflected in this data.
Thank you, Peter. That's all we have time for today. So that's an hour. I wanted to mention that we will be following up with additional webinars on this. So it's not like, okay, here you are, now you're left sort of out there with this. We'll be having additional webinars, both in terms of using the system, but also in terms of with ideas for reaching out to the community, ministry ideas, and so on to support this. This initiative is part of the strategic plan for revitalization for the diocese. So we want to use this in various ways as we interact with parishes and sharing between parishes, to use this system as one of the tools available to begin to look at the community and begin to have new ideas for growth and for engagement in the community. So you can expect to hear more from us about this. And if there's any follow-up questions about this, you can always email me. In addition, as there's no cost to this system, the diocese we have licensed this for all the parishes, so it's available to everyone. There's also support directly from MissionInsite at misupport@missioninsight.com. So you can get direct support from MissionInsite, or you can email us and we'll be able to help you in particular things that you have. So feel free to reach out. And if you would like to get parish administrator, church administrator access to plot your data, please let me know. Just shoot me an email, pturner@edow.org, and we'll be happy to get you set up with that for the church administrator so you can upload your data and then do some comparisons of your parishioners to your community. So that's some extra work, and that's some very exciting reports in terms of looking at where your parishioners are and then what your community around that looks like as well. So thank you everyone for participating today. Again, we anticipate more of these soon, so stay tuned. Thank you, Peter, for leading the webinar today. Hope it's been informative for everyone. Let me know by email with follow-up questions. And again, stay tuned for more webinars coming soon. Thank you very much.